Yes, people, what is going on, everyone? It is Mike back again from Palma de Mallorca, the beautiful Balearic Islands. Your boy flew out yesterday. It's a family holiday. It's me, Finn, and the wife, and it's been a lovely start. Lovely start, and it was even nicer when we landed because the flight was 3 o'clock UK time, and we landed at. We landed at what time would it have been? Well, we were meant to land at 6:30, and we landed. I don't quite know how this happened, but I ended up landing, and I got off the plane and everything, and I managed to watch the second half of the game in the airport, just milling around, and I saw the goal. I watched the highlights, obviously, and I know John and Frankie, to be fair to them, did a fantastic match reaction yesterday, really positive. So, you overall, you're happy. There's been some announcement today about players leaving and whatever, and again, I don't think any of that is a negative either, but I wanted to come on and talk about how positive I am, personally, as an Everton fan right now, how positive it feels, because this thing with David Moyes, the fact that he's been in charge 20 games and we've achieved, I think it's 31 points in those 20 games, which would have kept us safe, irrespective. So you can almost write off the panic of the 18 games prior, which was Sean Dyche 1 point above the drop zone. That's how far David Moyes took the same group of players and brought them forward. And I think if you break down his points per game, I think Everton finished on something like 60 points, which is literally 6 or 7 points outside the Champions League spot. It's actually mad to think that the year that Martinez had Everton with that record points total for Premier League, 72, for the team that finished 5th, this season we would have finished 3rd. This season was an opportunity for lots of clubs, and some clubs really messed up in the end, in my opinion. I certainly felt like West Ham messed up. I think they could have been up there with their squad, but they completely just fell apart. Tottenham and Man United had bad seasons. And then nobody really, apart from Liverpool, and even that's tailed off towards the end, has been consistent. No football team this season has been consistent, because you've seen Everton getting 2-2 draws with Ipswich, but yet going to Forest and Newcastle and winning. You've got Man United being absolute no-shows for half the season and then beating Aston Villa yesterday, albeit there was some dodgy decisions in there, which, shocking decisions. But the point I'm making is no team has been consistent, whereas last season, Man City, Liverpool, Arsenal, over the last 5 years, they've all amassed more than 90 points, and there's been a gap. This season, the quality of the Premier League's been quite poor, and I think it's brought more teams closer together, and I certainly think next season's going to be even more competitive in that sense, with more teams taking more points off each other. And the three that come up, it's going to be, again, a real struggle to stay in the Premier League. But for a side like Everton, this is where the ambition is. This is where the push is. We've got a brand new stadium, which is stunning, loud, aggressive. We've got really good base, in my opinion, in terms of the centre halves, in terms of, a core of younger players that are coming through, i.e. they've been bought in. Looks like Charly Alcarez is in negotiations to stay. We've got Iliman Ndiaye, who's been absolutely sensational at times this season. We've all seen it. Better, in my opinion, come of age this season and really worked under David Moyes. So all of a sudden, I'm more confident, and I said to John yesterday, the aim for Everton, based on the teams, based on where they've finished, has to be for challenging Europe. Not necessarily getting Europe, but you can't tell me, based on this season, where we've gone away to Brentford and got a draw, and we've beaten Brighton, and we've beaten Forest, and we've beaten Newcastle, and we've gone to places like Manchester City and got a point. Arsenal got a point. Got a point against Liverpool. Beaten Tottenham. Drew with Man United. You can't tell me that this Everton team, or the dynamics of this Everton team, is not capable of challenging for Europe next season. And that's the positive for me. Now, I do think you need to see some statement signings. I do think you need to see some real attempts. And I think until 30th of June, I think it's challenging. You know, there's discussions regarding Charly Alcarez. There's also huge discussions around Liam Delap. We know that he's been at Bramley-Moore. We know that he wants minutes guaranteed. And you know that Everton can offer him that. No other team in that group of teams that are interested in can. Maybe Man United, just because they're not going to go with Rasmus Højlund this season, surely. So maybe Man United can guarantee him minutes. But I think Everton right now, in trajectory, is in a much stronger position than Tottenham. Albeit, I know they've just won the Europa League and they've got Champions League football. But it's about the element of, is he going to play? They've got a lot of forward players. So is he going to play in that team? So, I don't know. I think that counts him out. Newcastle have got to lose Isaac. Which, if I'm being honest, now that they've got Champions League football, I don't see happening. So, genuinely think that the opportunity at Everton is a huge one for Liam Delap, and we are the sort of club that he should be signing for. Now, I'm going to say that I'm biased, but we're on the upward trajectory, and I think players and other teams in the Premier League are going to be looking at Everton next season and going, right, they're going to challenge, or they're going to do something, or they're going to be difficult to beat. Everton, this season, up until the Southampton game, had only won 4 games at home this season. And by the way, there was a decent number of those under David Moyes. So there's no illusion there. He's got to fix that. Because his away record has been astonishing. For the first time ever, Everton have finished with exactly the same points total, both home and away. I just think the fact that we're going into this stadium, the fact that we've got a hungry fan base, the fact that Everton fans are now seen globally. We have made so much effort for these players over the last, 5-6 years now, to be fair. You know, how many times have we been in a relegation battle? I don't want to count. And you look at the strength that we have collectively, then the gravity of the situation of a new stadium, leading the line, David Moyes coming back, there's no negatives. And I just think if you can do Everton business early, I think you should. Charly Alcarez, for me, is a must. 4 weeks ago, he wasn't. But yesterday's performance against a team that got Champions League football made me realise that even if he's going to have a bad patch, there's enough there to create something. And he isn't this skillful, outstanding number 10. He doesn't have a brilliant pass in his locker, but he's got tenacity. And he reminded me yesterday, and his goal reminded me yesterday, of Tim Cahill. I'd been talking the whole time about, it reminds me of Mikel Arteta. No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. He reminds me of Tim Cahill. That getting your foot in, that carrying the ball forward, that laying it off, getting in the box and the little header. That is exactly what he reminded me of yesterday. And for me, he's a must as well. So if Everton can go and get someone like Liam Delap and can go and get Charly Alcarez on a permanent and spend less than £50 million on the two of them, that is sensational business. That is sensational business. Now, the other player that, out of the loan moves that had been sort of hinted at, was Jack Harrison. And for me, look, I'm a no-go on Jack Harrison. I'm an absolute no-go. The actual person I think I might have considered trying to get again on loan is Orel Mangala. Because I know he's injured and I know he's out until October, and then he'll have rehab and then he'll have whatever else he's got to do. But he's a player that when he played this season, he looked mustard, he looked combative, he looked great. And if we can get Garner to even sign a 6-month contract. You might have the opportunity to replace him with Mangala in January. So you could see the logic. I'm trying to bring in players that I feel like we need, and I'm thinking in my head what we've got and what we can do. We've been linked with players like Richarlison. Now, I would love Richie back. I just don't know where he plays. And it's very obvious now that we're going to need at least one, if not two wingers. Again, loan moves, options to buy, who knows. But we're going to need that. So for me, I'm confident where Everton are going. I'm confident with the approach that we're taking. I'm confident with the manager. I've always been a pro David Moyes manager. I always have and I always will. But this season especially, to get 48 points out of a group of players that in December me and John were saying, these ain't staying up, is incredible. It's incredible. So he deserves all the plaudits as well. So I think the point I'm trying to make is yesterday's performance highlighted all of the things that we have needed to do. You know, he mentioned it in his match press conference after, about, you know, he was worried midweek about some of the players, yet they put in a performance on Saturday. You know, Newcastle needed something to play for. And if I'm being honest, Everton were the better team, start to finish. There was a couple of chances that Newcastle had, you know, that I think Harvey Barnes brings the ball down on his chest and just bounces away. You could see him taking the touch and smashing it in the top corner or something, but he didn't. You know, Pickford made a couple of double saves. Isak wasn't in the game really. Everton probably should have had a penalty, in my opinion. The ball comes across the box. He's got more than enough time, that defender, to move his arm out of the way, but he doesn't. So for me, that's a penalty. So Everton could have had a penalty. There was chances. There was headers over the bar. There was just so many positives yesterday. And then on top of that, there was a lovely goal. Charly Alcarez, ball comes into the box. Mikalenko, yet again, proving that he's being able to dip that ball into the box. Charly Alcarez bounces away from his man, overleaps, I think it's Stanburn, gets up and nods it in, makes it 1-0. And Everton, apart from a bit of pressure, were never in any danger. Calvert-Lewin should have made it 2. Again, he doesn't score for me. You know, we've been waiting for these announcements all day, all week. For me, Calvert-Lewin would be gone. You know, we know about Decore, we know about Ashley Young. For me, Dominic Calvert-Lewin would be leaving Everton. And that's nothing personal against him, by the way. I just think he's had enough time now to have done more than he's done in his Everton career. And I wish him the best of luck. I hope he gets the money he wants. But I think he, as much as we, should move on. I think a reset would be good for both parties in that case. The one that's difficult for me, and I actually can't believe I'm saying this, is Michael Keane. Because David Moyes has got this ability with centre-halves especially to make them good. You know, we've seen it. He signed Jagielka from a relegated Sheffield United, where he was playing CDM, and turned him into one of the best centre-backs Everton has seen. Certainly one of the best centre-halves in my lifetime. You know, and surely he's got to be in the top 20 in Everton centre-halves of all time, surely. You know, you then look at other players that he's done it with. You know, Mikalenko all of a sudden looks a different player. You know, Ashley Young, when he's played, although he's played less under Moyes, I'd argue he's actually looked better under Moyes. So I just think he's done such a good job. And I could see him doing it with Michael Keane. I could see him doing that nurtured role, that fourth choice centre-half, that fact that we wouldn't necessarily have to go and sign another centre-half. You've got to take a pay cut. You know, you've got to take a pay cut. And that's not a dig at Michael Keane, but, you know, if you're going to be a fourth choice centre-half, you've got to take a pay cut. But for me, if he's prepared to do that, I actually probably keep him. And that's bonkers. That is absolutely bonkers, me saying it, because I've been the biggest person saying I don't want to see him in a blue shirt again. But since he's stepped in, he hasn't really put a foot wrong. He hasn't put a foot wrong. He's been confident. He's been commanding. He's won headers. He's carried the ball out. He's been much better on his feet. It's like watching a different Michael Keane. So yeah, look, for me, I don't think I have an issue signing Michael Keane for another 1, maybe even 2 years on a much reduced pay. You know, I think he's on 120 grand a week. Scrap that, 60, 70, most. But yeah, I probably would. If that saves you having to go and spend £20 million in a transfer and then giving another young centre-half 45, 50 grand a week, do it. Do it. So that's where my head's at. I really want to start the window early. You know, I do want to see Alcarez confirmed. I would love to see Delap. Me and John have got this differing opinion on Delap. He seems to think, I was reading his tweets, he seems to think that a 1 in 3 striker is a poor striker when he's played for Ipswich. I think John's talking about out of his hoop in that sense. You know, me and John are big enough, ugly enough to be able to say that to each other. You know, there's been plenty of things that I've said where he thinks, fucking hell, Mog, shut the fuck up. But yeah, I think in that particular occasion, I think Johnny's talking out of his arse, and I think Delap would be a great signing for Everton Football Club. And 30 million quid for that sort of player would be fantastic. And then, you know, there's these wild rumours that I've seen. You know, Everton have been linked with Jack Grealish. We've been linked with Marcus Rashford. I mean, neither of those are happening. But it's nice that we're being linked with names that have got that appeal. You know, we did it once with James Rodriguez. We've done it a couple of times. Samuel Eto'o, we brought Wayne Rooney back. It's not out of the Everton possibility. But for me, I think we should just be more concentrating on bringing in youth, polishing them up, making money where we can, and driving this club forward. And that's where I think we should be at. But that's just my opinion. You might all disagree, and that's fine, you know. But look, I'm leaving it there. I have no idea how long this video is going to take to upload. So if you are watching this at 10 PM UK time, even tomorrow, I am sorry. I recorded this as of 20 to 6 Mallorca time, which is 1 hour in front, on the Monday. So whenever you see this, that's how long it's taken to upload. Alright? Right, cool. I'll see you soon. Love you. Up the toffees. Can he breathe, man? Can he breathe? Up the toffees. See you soon. Peace.